Astral Chain is the latest game from developer Platinum Games, who have churned out hits like the Bayonetta series, Nier Automata, and even the Wii U gem The Wonderful 101. Does their new IP make for a must-own on the Switch? Find out now. Needless to say, Platinum Games' penchant for stylized action games is recognized industry-wide and for good cause. Astral Chain continues that trend with a delightful action game featuring an awesome combat system, interesting people to meet in a world full of life. It doesn't hurt that the art design is top-notch. Please don't let the anime aesthetic turn you off. This is one pretty-looking game. You play as one of the two Howard twins and quickly take on the role of a neuron officer tasked with protecting and saving the last of humankind as an alien invasion has taken over most of the world. You police the Ark, the last safe spot for humanity, but still has an alien invasion problem too. It's here you fight these aliens called Chimera with your Legion that is physically tethered to you via the titular Astral Chain. The game does throw you in the deep end a little bit, especially since you are controlling two characters at once, but thankfully, the tutorial and training missions that are quick and to the point are really good. They're also optional if you'd rather not do them altogether, and while most games I'd skip them, I found them helpful here. There are a ton of moves you can do with your Legion, both as attacks and indirect attacks. Some moves have you wrapping up enemies with your chain to hold them in place, which was helpful for when there were tons of bad guys on screen at once. Others had you extending your chain to catch a charging enemy, which would hurl them back and stun them so you can get up close and get some more attacks in. While it sounds complicated, it really didn't take more than the first hour or so of playtime to feel comfortable with it. It's awesome to watch unfold too, although early on it felt like I was more passively playing in relation to the action that took place on screen. If you know anything about Platinum Games though, levels get crazy and bosses get berserk, and it wasn't too long before I knew what I was doing and felt a rush taking down enemies and bosses in a satisfying way. There is some strategy to the fights you engage in, as your Legion can't be out in the open indefinitely. There is a meter that counts down, and if you let it get down to 0, your Legion will retract and take longer to charge up had you return them manually. This added to the strategy too, as you needed to be tactful in when you have them out and when you bring them back. Missions usually start out with some light investigation work where you piece clues together and do some recon on the surrounding area, and gradually that gives way to fighting through enemies and eventually building up to a boss fight. They are fairly linear, but do offer up a ton of things to do, some of which you'll have to go back when you unlock different legions. Early on, for example, in the midst of hunting a chimera, I came across a cat stuck under a dumpster. Sadly, I had to leave the little kitty there because I didn't have the correct legion to help it. Civilians will sometimes ask for things or help, or you may come across a low-level criminal you have to subdue for the police to apprehend. I'm glad there is other stuff going on because it helps the world feel fuller and more alive and avoids you feeling as if you're just moving from point A to point B in a map until you get to that boss fight. Now, it wouldn't be a Platinum game without some technical issues. The camera was great about 90% of the time, but did cause a few issues in boss fights, mainly because they fill up most of the screen. Having the camera target the enemy is great, but when the perspective is one that looks up, it doesn't help you avoid the projectiles that fall from the sky and hit the ground. Your main character also suffers from hardcore silence. I understand they are stand-in for the player, but unlike, say, Link from Zelda, who is the most silent protagonist I know, these characters are uncomfortably silent. Without getting into spoilers, there are definitely some story moments you would expect your character to react or vocalize something, anything, but they don't. It doesn't hurt the game overall, but it does take you out of it for just a minute. For the level 30 crowd, there are a lot of strong reasons why this game is perfect for us and one for why it's not. For starters, the game offers up so many accessibility options in how you want to play. You can play on Unchained, which is the easiest difficulty setting, Casual for middle of the road, and Platinum Standard if you like some difficulty. Beating a mission on Platinum Standard unlocks Platinum Ultimate, which turns it up to 11, scores your performance, and eliminates reviving your character. The developers even allow you to adjust your difficulty at the start of each mission, so if you feel like you're getting the hang of how to play, you can turn it up a little. The runtime of the game is a satisfying 16 to 20 hours depending on how much you do and how difficult you set your missions to. I personally was excited to hear this total, as between games like Fire Emblem and some of the upcoming JRPGs releasing soon, this is a breath of fresh air. The only drawback I see is how often you come back to the game once you complete it. Unlike a lot of Nintendo games that hold a high replay value, this one might not fare that well. Original IPs are a rare entity these days, and thankfully Astral Chain, for me at least, falls on the successful side of things that I hope spawns a few sequels. It does combat incredibly well and is tremendously fun to play. The story takes itself seriously, but also has its moments of silliness, which strike that perfect balance of substance you want when playing a game that has so much style. There are options for the level 30 gamer when it comes to difficulty, and while the replay value might not be the same for everybody, the journey is still most definitely worthwhile.
Iris, shut down.
Huh?
If you enjoyed this review of Astral Chain, please click that subscribe button to be a part of any future level 30 gaming goodness. If you're playing Astral Chain, let us know what you think of the game, and if you've got questions we didn't cover, I encourage you to leave those as well. Until next time, we'll see you in the next level.